Looks like you guys can hear me. So you guys should be able to see me. All right, what are we doing today? We are back. We did labs earlier, and now we are working on cleaning up the ProLUG lab. People might be jumping down in the Discord, which would be fine. Let me actually make sure I have my chat up so I can see chat in case anybody talks down here. Should be good. Should be able to see all chat. Let me test that real quick. Yep, I can see that on both sides. Good. All right, well, I will have the chat up in case anybody needs to talk to me, and I will also have the Discord up in case anybody's going to hop in here. Oh, excuse me, with me working on Discord. Let's see. Looks like I am alone in the room still, so that's fine. What are we working on? So, as we're kind of cleaning up this lab environment that we're doing, we have a lot to kind of work through and make sure that the lab works the way that we expect, right? We can at any time jump directly into the lab server here. Let's just do this. There we go. And then all we need from that is a way to actually get into the box. So where's my little notepad at? All right, somewhere over here on the notepad, I have the, I don't even know where I have it. Somewhere in here. I have the password for this. Drop this over here. And this is what we expect the lab to kind of look like. We've got the admin course, the security engineering course, the automation course, so we can just jump in any one of them. Go over there. All right. Lab appears to be working properly as far as that part of the login goes. That's good. Let's give it another shot. Let's go with 3. Okay, automation looks good. And let's uptime exit. Okay, so our nodes have been up. We're working on the things that we're working on. Looks like things are good. And don't have any chat, so that's good. All right, so let's go through some of the stuff that we're working on then. So one of the things I wanted to do was make sure that I had added LSOF to all the images. So if I were on any one of these machines here, and I was just on my werewolf box, and I wanted to look at an Ansible command that I had maybe used. Screw it. I think we got one over here. Huh. Oh, it's because we're on Rocky. Here we go. So we could go and look and, oh, actually, well, we had stopped firewall D on all the systems, but let's real quick just do an LSOF-I for maybe port 22. And let's just make sure all the boxes have LSOF on them. Looks like they do. Yeah. So that part we can call done. We fixed the tempfs last week, but we can check that again. We can df-h on the root of the file system to make sure they all look good. That'll be somewhat valuable to see. Okay, they're all good. They're all the right size. None of the boxes have not rebooted yet, so that's important. Let me check real quick on the Discord. Yeah, okay. And I'm muted on Discord too, so if anybody has questions for me on Discord, just make sure you drop them in chat here for me so I can see them. All right. So then we fixed the Ansible output for the sandbox. We can say that's done because that's coming out correctly. And we backed up the NFS location. So the backup for the NFS location was this cheap little cron tabs that I did. But I'm going to put those into a just little scripts folder, right? And maybe I'll just vi backup.sh. Let's call it lab shares backup, right? So that's probably the best name for it. And in here, we will just go and steal it from the person who wrote it for us, which is up in our Bash and System Strict channel. Actually, I want to make sure that I actually want to pull down his most recent version of it. So his most recent version is here, right? So I can grab this I can just grab it like this if I want. Or I can actually just clone the whole thing down, right? What was I just at? In here. That's good enough for government work. sure we got the numbers here right. Because if that thing doesn't wrap correctly, we'll have all kinds of nightmares. All right, that looks good. That looks good. All right, one of our guys wrote that. That's good. And what we're going to do is we're going to test that backup. We're going to make sure that that script works the way that we expect it to. And it looks like it's going to write to var log backup, so we will go ahead and just run we'll do 750, right? And let's run it, make sure it backs up, and then we'll tail dash, we'll just tail var log backup log. And it looks like it backed up successfully as far as the reporting on that goes, so that looks good to me as far as you know, our system is doing that proper backup. So now I'm going to take this full path here, root scripts, and then this, right? So root scripts and then lab shares backup, right? And we're going to go throw that in our cron tab now. So cron tab -e, we'll go down here and we'll just keep this last one here, $, and we will take root scripts, boom. And now we'll be able to in the future validate that that has logged by just checking. We just cat out our log backup, right? And then we'll be able to see the logging that's being done in there. We'll check that tomorrow morning. Make sure that's good. And actually, we can update that. We can make that send that log to Loki. There's two ways we can do it. We can either have it pushed to Loki right in the script, or we can have the log grabbed by Promtail and sent out, right? So we can do that either way. There's however many ways we want to kind of move our data around there. So, okay. Let's then go to the next part of what we need. So we've stolen that effectively. That's good. Wanted to steal that. Let's go to the other part of what we were working on. Oh, back here. It wasn't here, but it's over here. So backup for the NFS locations, we're calling that done for now. And then the node exporter config for the lab. This one was good. However, we need to ensure that port 9100 is allowed through the firewall in the image so that's scrapable by Prometheus even after a reboot. What that is right here in the lab, we're seeing real-time data being scraped from the systems, and we're getting all of this, you know, kind of just good uptime data and information about kind of how the system is behaving, right? How the lab is going. Kind of the useful data that we want to know about our lab systems, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to set that in the image for the nodes so that that comes up correctly. We did a little one-off before, and now we need to make that more persistent. So we're going to go do that in the images. So I think we did the images over here. Yeah. Let's just do this. We did not do the images over here. We did the images over here. So, Control-Shift-R, images. Actually, just image.
That's it.
Hey, how's it going? We are live, but we're also working on the system. So if you guys have any questions.
You're muted over here on Discord.
I am muted on the Discord side, yes. I did that on purpose. Well, I guess I could. Hold on, I can unmute myself. Hold on. I just turned this thing on accident over here.
Okay.
Lost treasure.
Can you guys hear me on Discord? I can be open on both if you guys want. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Hold on. I could spell. Jesus.
Then stream. You know.
I'm gonna have to rewrite this command because I literally do not see. Just hear me on Discord. I can be open on both if you guys want. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Looks. Hold on. Looks like you guys need to mute me. Somebody needs to mute me over there. That was seconds ago.
It's funny. Yeah.
What the fuck is this? There we go. There we go. All right, container exec in there. Let's go in there, and we're gonna rebuild each of these containers and cd user lib firewall And we're going to go to services. No. Okay. We need to get the name because I don't know the name right off. So the name is services ls node. It's Prometheus node exporter. Right? Yeah. So here's the name we need. Prometheus. Service name is right here. That's the actual name that the system's going to use. So let's go configure that in there. We're just hard configuring this. It's fine. And we will go. Just drop it right there. All right. So, automation will be built. We'll go do Rocky and Hammer, and then we'll go from there. Let me turn this thing off. It keeps getting me. All right, but yeah, if you guys have questions, let me know. You guys can ask me even down in the Discord. If you got anything, you just got to interrupt me because I'll just work right through stuff. Also,
Yes,
I see some of you guys over on YouTube and stuff, so it's good. Yeah, what we're doing is we're configuring the firewall to allow after the reboot this to still scrape, and our test for that is going to be to reboot all the boxes because we're in our window. So we're in our window of time. We have downtime from 7 to 8 my time, so we can do whatever we want in the lab. One thing I probably should do is echo that to wall. That's one of the things I tend to do is echo this as system maintenance window. Sometimes I'll put it up in the MOTD. Sometimes I'll just touch Netsino login and then nobody can get in. However, that doesn't stop root from logging in, and that's how we log in so that we have the power. But maybe one of the things we'll do in the future is just have a user login so then we can block the user login. It'll just be a user that can sudo up to root. That would be fine. That'll be future stuff, but not for right now. All right, let's get this. All right, so that's built, and then we will exec. I could type in the damn thing. And we're going to go to Rocky. Yep. Rocky Linux 9. PI user lib firewall D zones public YYP. Drop this in there. That's part of the build. And then we'll do the last one in the hammer node. So there we go. All right. Also, if you guys have stuff in Discord, you can drop it in chat, I guess, as well. All right, but I've been using GitLab. Okay, yeah. All right. Let's see. The wife and one of my nieces watched Little Women a little while ago. So me and my brother and his son, well, so he's the brother whose daughter was here. We took off and went to a little like sports bar Zips to eat, and then we went over to his house and watched. I wasn't particularly fond of it, but the last Venom movie that came out, I don't know. People probably liked it, but I didn't like it that much. Didn't think it was great. Xshunya, I will try to get GPUs in the lab as soon as I can, but I assure you asking me over and over again doesn't help. Like, it's not going to make me get them any faster. But, I mean, I will try to get them in whenever. I know the ones I want to get. I have to wait for the thing to come out of here. It is not, at last I checked, you still can't order them yet. Yeah, it's still like reserved back order. So that's the one I want to buy. It's like $4 grand, but I can't get it yet. So, all right, we've done that. We need
beast.
hammer. Hammer's last one. No, that thing's a beast, man. It is a beefy little box. I mean, and look, maybe something faster comes out after, before they get it to market. I don't know, but I mean, I was just gonna throw this in and then use this as our GPU node in the cluster. In fact, one of the things I'm going to put up front of everything, I actually set this up the other day, but I didn't turn it on all the way, is open on demand. I'm going to put that in front of things so people can connect in. So that's something I'll be working on. We're in the environment, so VI, Etsy, sorry, user, live, firewall, D, zones, public. All right. Prometheus node exporter. All right, true, build. All right, so we built all 3 of the systems we need. And we have we've built the images and we fixed that in there. So what we can do is while that's building on Hammer, let's just go over here to Auto 5 and reboot, right? So Auto 5 is going to come back up. When he comes back up, we should be able to immediately see him. Well, we'll see him with Firewall D having that configuration set for Prometheus to be open. We'll see him with Prometheus up. We know that Node Exporter is working on him. And he will still be working over here. He will still check in. Auto 5 will still check in. He's not checking in now, but he will start checking in again because we'll be able to scrape him. Where's Auto 5 at? Auto 5 is not. Oh, it's interesting. When we don't have information on him, he disappears. That's interesting. This is just like, these are live servers. So all the ones, Auto 5's not there, so he's down. Which makes sense. We turned him off. But when he comes back up, we will, we'll go. It takes about 120 to 150 seconds on average in our environment for nodes to come back up. Egglord, you said you gotta catch up on budget stuff. Yeah. I have a scraper thing I'm building for a NOAA project. It's like I gotta test it tomorrow, so. I'll be working on that tomorrow at work on this other box that I have next to me. But James said some nice videos this week about classic computers, the coverage of PicOS. Nice. I have never played with PicOS. That might be an interesting thing. I don't know. I've never played with it. I don't know if you can, James. I don't know if you can link them down in Discord. I don't think they let you link them on YouTube, unfortunately. But if you guys have anything like that you want to link, you can. This should start coming up right after 120 or so. So once it does, we'll see it come up over here. We hope it comes up automatically over here. Once it does, we'll see it come up over. That's the hope. That's the hope. All right. Auto 5. I think. Still don't see him yet. Nope, he's not pinging yet either. Looking for Auto 5. All right, he's back up. Things that we expect. Node exporter should be running. Port should be listened to or running, so node exporter is there. We see Auto 5 over here reporting, so that's good. He's been up 1 minute, so that means that we were able to scrape through from Prometheus, because this is Prometheus data, and get to that box, which we could not do before without the fact that we had turned off his firewall. Now, we had turned off the firewalls in the running instances of all the servers with Ansible, right over here. We had done, where's it at? Huh. Maybe I don't know where it was. Right here, we had just stopped firewall D, but I said that wasn't good practice. We want the firewall on, and we want it to be sharing that through it, so that is now happening. So, yeah. So that's good. Firewall D's on, as we expect. And then firewall CMD get active zones. Should give us public. We know it's public. And then get zone public. I might be wrong on that one. List services might do it. And then we would see there's the services on the active zone, which is public. So that's good enough. That's I think that's fine. So since we're in our window, and since we have now tested that works, let's go ahead and reboot all our nodes. So we're going to reboot all the servers in the environment. And this is going to be a big old hot mess. What we will expect is this whole window over here will go down. We will lose all those nodes because they're all down hard. They're going to absolutely disappear from this window. And then as they come back up, we will see them come back as the scrapes start to work on them against the environment. So that's what we're going to expect over here in this window. Yep, there they all go. They're all gone, or they're all going away. Yep. Auto, and hammer are the only ones. Now, next time they get scraped, they're going to be gone. So we'll see everything go away. Actually, we can hard reset right here. Yep, no nodes. Now it's like a race to see which node gets scraped first, because then they're going to pop back up over here. All right, while that's happening, let me pop this over here. Get over here. Go back to our monitor. There's our monitor. That'll come back up. Let's go and say that is a good... We're pretty sure that's going to be good, so we'll wait to start that one. But let's see what else we can do today. We only have 40 more minutes of the lab still. We got to build the automation targets. We can build the automation targets online or offline. That's not going to affect the overall system. Plan monitoring for the lab. We can do that whenever. We don't actually need downtime for that, so that's good too. Update the reboot process for lab nodes. Oh, I do need to do that. That also doesn't require downtime, but what that's going to be is when people log into the nodes, we want something that's automatically going to reboot them either when they leave or when they have been inactive, maybe when they're inactive, or maybe after like 8 hours. Maybe we put it in the message of the day, right? Because we want to make a little basic message of the day, acceptable use policy, just something quick that says, hey, you've been dropped into a lab for this purpose. You have the next 8 hours before the lab automatically closes. Something like that, right? You have 8 hours to use this lab before it closes, and then you'll need to reconnect. And then something like, please save your work in lab work, because lab work is where things are saved in our environment, right? Like if you go to any of our nodes, well, you can see it from here. This is where you save your lab work that you're working on, and then any of the nodes can get in here. And because I could just delete Zorg's stuff right here, rm-rf Zorg, right? Like get rid of all his stuff. I'm not going to do that though, but if I was going to, we have it backed up. So if people are deleting people's stuff maliciously, we'll deal with that. But for the most part, we're kind of considering this a good stewards, lab. If we're in here, I tell people all the time, if you've already been given root, what's the fun in being malicious? Like the fun in doing anything is taking it over, right? Like if you're given root permissions, I don't understand like why you would. I have no feelings of being capricious. Now, if I get into a system that's never gonna let me in or give me permissions, that's when I would want to be doing bad stuff. But I mean, no, like why would you delete other stuff when you already have the permissions given to you? It's not like you earned them in any way. No, Rocky 5 was the first one back up. So we're gonna see those repopulate over there. We're not, look, my hands aren't even on the keyboard. I'm sitting here eating. Actually, I'm not eating anything on stream. Some of you guys saw me like choke earlier, half to death. But yeah, all right. Yep, there's our nodes coming back up. So that's now a new method for us to kind of track and ensure that our nodes are up, because now we know even after reboot, the node will come up over here. We can see their uptime. This is going to be an awesome little HUD, like a heads-up display of what's going on in the lab. We can see.
What's driving that graphic?
What's that?
What's driving the graphic? Is it Prometheus?
Yeah, so this is, yeah, Prometheus is scraping on port 9100. So what we just did, Zorg, last week in the maintenance, we put node exporter on the boxes, but then we had to set firewall D to allow port 9100 through. So you might say, well, how was that working all week then? I went to the active nodes and I turned firewall D off. So I bypassed the problem. There was the node exporting port 9100. There was Prometheus scraping it, but being blocked. So I turned firewall D off. Prometheus was scraping and we were getting data all week, and we were happy and we thought we were cool and all that good stuff. But that wasn't a good solution. But since I've limited myself in this environment to, I will only reboot these nodes because I want people to be able to use them between 7 p.m. on Sunday night and 8 p.m. on Sunday night, my time. So we're about 25 minutes into our maintenance. I wanted you guys to see that or we had to be able to prove that we could get one node up. So we just use auto 5, bring him up with his firewall D on. I don't know what the hell's going on with me. Auto 5. And then firewall D's on, and he's still allowing 9100's allowed out, but firewall D might have been blocking it. However, when we did that, oh, he's been rebooted again. We see the services here. Oh,
When you're done showing that, I have an idea of how we can
there's the services.
set the kind of timeout for users, like if they haven't run a command in like 8 hours or so.
Give me 1 second. I'll show you guys services real quick. And if we cat in here the Prometheus service node exporter, this is what we allowed when we were just down in those images a second ago. So Zorg, you see how me go into each of those 3 images and manually edit that file to allow this name in it? That's what we were doing. We were taking the zone. Public is the zone, and we were adding this so that this definition is now allowed through on that, and that is on public interface, which is ETH0. So public, which is defined here. These are the services in public, and we can also I think we can list. What is it? I think it's list all zones. Is that right? And then this dumps everything. And then now I can go and I can look and say, well, public, which is so block DMZ, drop external home, internal public, which is the active one, has Prometheus node exporter according to that definition. So 9100 is allowed inbound on this interface. That's what we've done. So that's what I was doing earlier when you saw me going into each of those node images. And those node images are like they're the base of the baking of our whole lab. Like everything in our lab comes from those node images. Everything else gets overlaid on top. So yeah, we can call that good. I would say that part of the lab, node exporters configured like that, where we originally set it in opt and then allowed it to be shared, I'd say that's all good. That's now working, and we can call that done. So the things that are ready, or the things that we could start for the next 20 or the next 30 minutes of the lab time that we have, is this right here. And when I say lab, I mean maintenance time, right? Like maintenance time in the lab. But technically, I don't have to reboot the lab again. I don't have to reboot the lab. I have all the things in there that I need for now. Everything here, I can do this at my leisure, right? So as far as I'm concerned, like maintenance window is open. I would, or maintenance window is over. I would take this right here, and I would say, okay, this is, back to my change, back to my wherever I'm documenting this. If I'm using a tool like, actually, I just saw that this tool is open source. It's so OTRS is a tool for like help desk and ticketing, so you can like put in tickets and stuff. And what I would be doing is I would be closing out this ticket or whatever I'm doing and saying, this is all done. We have completed this work at this time. These are the actions that are taken. These are the, whatever specific change or work things that we had done. Typically, we try to limit the number of changes we do on any one system during a change window. We only want to be doing one change. Like if there's a global change, that should be the only change at the time until we validated and moved on. We can get some exceptions for that, like only if it's like in a dev environment or something, and then they're going to test on Monday and let us know that it's good. That's sometimes acceptable to us, especially since we don't want to be calling and waiting for devs that might be on different time zones than us, time zones and stuff than us. But I do want to build, so we can start building the targets. There's no downtime for the targets. Targets are just going to be this. Targets are going to be, where do we put the targets? Mostly this environment over here is our pretty beefy server, and he's got a lot of space. No, he does not have a lot of space. Shoot, what was our one that has more space? Is this the guy that has more space? Yeah, this guy's got a lot more space. So this is where we'll put the target nodes. Also, they'll be on a separate one than auto server, so that's good because then if you're doing stuff on the auto servers, you're using this shared CPU and RAM, and if you're hitting the nodes hard and installing stuff, you're doing that over here. So there's a little bit of division of work there for sure. But let's think about the names that we want to give these nodes. So these nodes are going to get configured in our environment. They are going to belong to Werewolf, right? They're going to be something to do with Werewolf. And we got to think of what we want to call them. I thought about calling them like target, and then just calling it like target 1 and target 1-1. So sorry, target 1-1 and target 1-2, and then target 2-1 and target 2-2, target 3-1, target 3-2. Is that right? Yeah. That's what I thought about doing. But I don't know if you guys have better ideas. I'll take better ideas if you guys have them, because I'm terrible at fucking naming stuff, guys. I've told you that. I'm bad at naming stuff. So. But I would take suggestions. Sorry, I'm getting texts from people. Again, these are not all right. My brothers are talking about World of Warcraft. Can't get involved in that crap again. Also, we have Dungeon and Rock. Here, I think this is the Rocky template. So let's go look at him. Yeah, this box has too much stuff. We definitely don't want to use. If we do copy this, can we copy this? Let's copy this real quick, and we'll keep him within the pool. And we're gonna make him target. Maybe we'll call him target. Target server template. That's fine. And we'll do that, and we'll put them over here on. They don't need to be on the lab SSD, but we're going to put them on lab SSD, so they're going to have faster disks. So when you guys are doing stuff to them, they're going to clone and happen faster. But then as soon as we get him up, we're going to clean this up. We're going to get rid of the big Rocky disk that's 15 gigs, and we're going to leave the other 3 disks. And you might say, Scott, why are you going to leave the target disks on there? Well, because when we hit the targets with our automation, we can use there's modules for configuring LVM. So we can deploy clusters and we can deploy software from attached disks on boxes. That's not a hard thing to do. So we'll actually do that in some of our configuration on the labs as well. I'll show you how to do that, because that's super useful if you have like a process where when your users request servers, they can also request certain things. Then we can take that information in. I've used tools like VRO and stuff like that where the nodes and the information comes in, and then I drop that into my Ansible, and the playbook goes and builds whatever opt directories they need, and then they are on their separate disks, and then those disks can be backed up separate. And if we destroy the node, bring the node back up, reattach those disks, everything's back working, right? It's super convenient, super easy. We may do that in the automation. I don't know how much we're going to get to in the automation course, but we're going to get to as much as we can, right? So let's wait till this comes up. Target server template right here. Let's give it a second to finish. And then I want to remove this disk because we don't need it. Yeah, there we go. And then that'll make this a much smaller footprint when we go to deploy those servers. We do need to make sure the network is going to the right place, so his network should be fine, but he should be on lab internal. Okay, yeah, that'll be good. All right, so hopefully that's clear what we're doing there. Yeah. Yeah, regarding image names, is there a good policy to avoid latest tag? Yeah, so that is a good policy in general. However, in Werewolf, we only keep one version. Like, Werewolf is a one-to-one image of the system. The way we've gotten around that at work is we tag dates when we build things. That's actually how we've gotten around it at work. In my home lab, I don't have, like, I don't want to say unlimited, but I also don't have, like, a lot of storage. I mean, I have some terabytes or whatever, but nothing some great amount for a lab environment. And since all of my stuff is held in var lib werewolf, right? du-sh root. So let's see. Oops. How big is that directory? Yeah, that's 6.8 gigs with 1, 2, 3 in there. So they're, you know, close to 2.5 each or so, or whatever. They are always the latest, is what I'm saying. There's no other tags to werewolf. Werewolf doesn't keep that same versioning like we might think of that, if that helps. And I have my werewolf stuff in the background here. So in the building of images, yeah, they're really just the names. And then typically when we've been working through them and we have like a working version, that will be we'll put like 0806 or something for the date. And then you got to think, well, is that the number or the day or the month or whatever? I prefer when I do dates. Me and the wife were talking about this earlier because I was showing her this little joke about how Americans do dates. I've always used the Army way of dating, so that's the day and then the month in shorthand, and then the 2-year digit for the year. So like today would be 24 AUG 25. Super easy, right? Super easy. Or you could do 2025 if you want, right? I think we would do the whole number, but that's easy to tell what's going on there. But anyways, yeah, that's how we would do it. In the home lab, I haven't had much cause for that. Maybe in the old versions, we could pull out the old images because I do have them all recorded. I kept all the old images, but let's pull this back up. We got the environment. The environment's looking clean. That actually looks pretty good right there. I do want to make this bigger right here. So it grabs all of them. I want it to see all of them. And then I want to save this page. So we're going to save this and say heads up. All right, so just a lab box that's like heads up display. And we can roll back to older versions of this too. Grafana is one of my favorite tools as far as like versioning goes. Because look, if you guys have never seen this, I can go right over here, right? And I can say, oh, no. Where's that at? It's right in here. I can go, oh, no. We need to go back to an old version. Scott just called this lab view, heads up display, and then this. No, we need to go back to this one. Like the users started complaining a few months ago and nobody answered the tickets. We need to roll this all the way back to here. And we can restore this page all the way back to this without any work that we've done on it. So I really like that about Ansible. Now, that's only as good as your notes. This is just like a git commit. It's only as good as what you put. If you choose to just say .change, .ready, well, fucking nobody knows. And you're going to forget 10 minutes after you do it. I'd probably forget 1 minute after I do. I might forget as I'm hitting the button. You got to put something in there so you kind of know what's going on. But I'm not anybody's dad. Well, I'm somebody's dad, but I'm not any of your dad. So I'm not going to tell you guys you have to do that kind of stuff. But I'm going to tell you it's helpful and it'll make your lives easier. All right. So where was I at? I'm doing too much. I'm trying to do too much in a small window of time, and that's not good for me. We were going to build out the automation targets. So how might we do that? Well, we've got a few ways we could do it. We have the images already. All we need to do really is build the templates over here, the nodes. And as we look at this target server template that we're going to bring up, we can do it like this. We can go look at his memory. 4 gigs, probably a bit beefy for those boxes. We can probably roll them down to just 2 gigs. They're going to be a pretty small little box, and they're just going to be targets to these other nodes, so that's fine. And his CPUs, we can leave it. I'm pretty sure his CPUs are set at 2, and I'm fine with that. Let's go look at them. Yeah, I'm fine with leaving a CPU. You get under 2 CPUs. I mean, that server's just stepping on itself, right? This is probably fine. And we can either do the new VM wizard or we can do a quick create. Let's do a new VM wizard. You know what? Hold on. We could, if we wanted to, do this. Watch this. If some of you haven't seen the old magic, let me show you guys this. Because there's one thing Ansible does okay with this tool. XCPNG is very old. It doesn't have all the cool plugins that Proxmox does, but there is one thing that it can still do well. Watch, I'm gonna stop this. We're gonna delete this when it comes up. But hold on. This is the old magic here. Let's go to werewolf nodes deploy. I think I have it in here. So here's how we were deploying the Rocky boxes before. This is old IPs on them and old other stuff. And then what happens to these nodes as they get sucked in is the lab deployer. This is some basic Ansible right here. Don't let the fact that I'm using one really big module like fool you here. This is super simple stuff. Simple Ansible at the top, and then it just says debug so I can see what all the variables are. I just want to see all the variables, right? Just print them to the screen. We can look at them. We can log them. We can do whatever we want with them. And then down here, there's only like 2 modules that I know of that work with Zen, XCPNG still. One is Zen Server Guest, and one is, I think, Zen Server Power. Those are like the only 2. They're not even maintained anymore. Last time I used this, me and Michael Pessa had to go edit the Python. But it works. It can go and deploy the node name based on that item.node.host, and then here's the item down at the bottom, is looping over nodes. Nodes are coming from that file, which is right here, lab environment file YAML that you just saw. So we're pulling those in and we're looping over them and deploying them from the template. Now the template here has, watch this right here. When we go to the template, it's got a UUID. So I've got to map that UUID right here, the template UUID. But this can deploy all of our nodes for us. So I can go take this real quick and I can modify this for the lab environment to be all the target nodes, and we can deploy them all here real quick. And then what it'll do is it'll get them, and then look, here's the disks. We don't need the disks. We'd actually comment all this out because we don't need to change the hardware size and stuff like that. But this was how we did the early Rocky servers right here. Some of you guys haven't seen me deploy this in a while because it's almost, honestly, with like the one-off stuff that I do, it's just easier for me to come over here and do one at a time, except for this bullshit. So hold on, let me force the shutdown of this guy, and then we're gonna kill him because he doesn't have the right name. So we can deploy them like that if we want. And then what I would do is I would be pulling this target server template right here, pulling it in here, and we would be deploying the, right? We would just change all of these over to the target servers or whatever. I think we're going to call them target. That sounds good. We would make the target servers and it would deploy all the VMs. Then we would have to go walk over to the werewolf server, only because we don't have it in here automated. We would then have to go and add those into the nodes.conf and werewolf. And I guess we could automate that if we wanted to. Although programmatically I can't get into werewolf. I did that on purpose. I wanted my home lab to be separate from the werewolf cluster. So I have to jump in as the Scott user and sudo up. So I guess I have that ability if I wanted to. If I heard of the harvest hyper, I have not. What is that? What's the harvest hyper? I have not seen that. Oh. No, I haven't. Top of VMs and harvest. Okay. I know what hypervisors are. Good. It can run on top of your nodes using KubeVirt. I like KubeVirt. I want to get more of that in the environment. Give me 1 second, guys. I gotta grab water real quick. Turn my camera off. I'll be right back. I'm not going far. I'm just grabbing some water real quick. And we're 44 minutes. Oh, I got 16 more minutes of reboot time if I needed it. However, I'm calling the cluster good because our monitoring says the cluster is good. So I'm gonna take this as the cluster is good right here. We've got all the nodes coming back up. We could touch them all real quick if we needed to. Real quick. Let's just do this real quick. Let's just real quick make sure that none of the nodes are over. That's stupid. Every time I do that. Sorry, guys. I only want that to come up when people ask me questions. Let me pull my camera back up. All right, there we go. Yeah. So node, everything's been rebooted. I actually said it 15 minutes ago, didn't I, that I would be saying that this change window was done. Yeah, we're good. The environment's good. We can call the environment good. Let's look at this hypervisor. Built on Kubernetes, so you got to have a Kubernetes running, which I do in other parts of the lab. Bare metal servers, okay. So I can run virtual machines inside. Oh, okay. So yeah, this is actually something that I would be interested in doing. Harvester, if I was going to, so there was a design decision made long ago in our home lab. We've got these 4 boxes, right? And these 4 servers, these 4 somewhat beefy. Well, one of them's just okay, and the other 2 are, or the other 3 are kind of beefy. They were turned into XCPNG hypervisors, and then I do a bunch of other stuff with them. To maintain the home lab, we used Werewolf in its own VLAN to take over a bunch of nodes and boot them and do all the things we wanted. Get in there with a bastion and all this kind of stuff, right? What we could do with this tool, it looks like, is I could tear these down and make 3 really big Kubernetes nodes, right? They would be Kubernetes nodes with 32 gigs or 32 CPUs and 128 gigs of RAM, and they'd be pretty okay for home lab, pretty all right. And then from there, I would use KubeVirt, this is very similar to how Killer Coda works, and I would stand up VMs inside of my Kubernetes cluster. That would be perfectly acceptable. We'd be almost no different at that point than like what they're doing with Killer Coda as far as our backend, because they use KubeVirt as well. And I know that he registers the nodes as you come into them, and then you get the node, and the nodes sit there inactive, idle. And you say, Scott, how do you know that? Because sometimes when it's like a Sunday morning and nobody's using them, they're like 2 hours old. And sometimes when it's like the height of the day and people are probably logging in and using them during the week, sometimes the nodes are only 30 minutes old. And you say, well, what does that mean? Well, that means that some nodes sit there longer before they get tasked than others. So nodes are always sitting there in capacity. They're not built as they're requested. They're built and already warm for you as you get them, right? So that's how I figured that out from using that tool for a long time, right? And then looking at that stuff. We'll put this in the notes for me to read later. But that is an interesting little thing. I think that's got some potential. I'm probably not going to be blowing away the lab soon. If I do blow away the lab, it'll be probably around the time. Oh, sorry, guys. I'll probably be doing it around the time that I do the digit server, when we get that and start getting GPUs in the cluster. When we get to that, I may re-architect everything. However, Werewolf would do just fine with that too. We can stand up a node and give it the NVIDIA drivers, and that's stuff I do at work now, right? Like I get NVIDIA boxes and A100s and whatever big types of GPU cards, and then I set up the NVIDIA for them, get them booted and stuff through that tool. So, all right. Anyway, so I got derailed, but that was good. I think that's good. I think that's useful. Let's go back over here. So then the question is, do I want to update this? Like, do I want to copy over, right, lab deployer to like target deployer.yaml? I go back and forth between YML and YAML. It doesn't matter to me, but the other one would be lab and then target. So lab env to target env.yaml. All right, target env. This would now point to the right UUID for that, which would be here. Oops. Already had it in I. Here's the UUID for that tool. Where is he at? Here. This guy. Right. Target set server. Copy. Drop it in right there. Disks. This can all be for now. Whoops. Commented. And hardware can also be commented. There's a lot of the stuff that's not super useful unless you're doing like hard configurations, and we don't need to. We do want to do the network, the internal network, and I can do the Mac in some way if I want, or I can allow it. It will actually build that Mac for me if I don't tell it to. But that's We can give it that. We can leave it like that if we wanted to. What's this? Hold on. Oh, you wrote a script that checks if the user has not run a command in the last 8 hours. Okay.
Pretty sure it works.
I can set that in the if you wanted, I could set that as just a script that the user kicks off in the background when they log in, and then if they don't touch it for a while, it would just kick them out, right?
That would work, yeah. I mean, if you want, I can add like an actual reboot command in there.
Yeah, we could do that, and then
or
we
do
can
you just
test
want
it.
to kick them out?
We always want, when we kick a user out, we always want to reboot the box.
Okay, so we can just.
In fact, that's actually a check that we would want too, where if there's ever a user in a server, we want to trigger something, we want to flag something, and then if there's ever not that user in the server or they haven't done the command, then we want to reboot the server too. Does that make sense? Because what if a user leaves and doesn't reboot the server? Now, in some cases, it doesn't really matter that much, but I would like the servers to go down and come back up clean every time. So now
Yeah.
I can do that. I have a way that I've been planning to come through and reap all the servers, if you will. But if we have another way to do it that's part of something like that, we could use that too.
Not sure I would build that into this script, but that could definitely be like another script, or simply, I guess, like alias exit to reboot. I think that would work pretty well.
That's also something we could do too. Yeah. And here's the thing, right? Like everything we do in the lab, you guys are root, man. People can override it. They can leave themselves logged in. I'm okay with most all that stuff. I'm gonna reap the boxes on Sunday night. If somebody left themselves logged in, technically they would no longer have any guests and they would just be using that capacity. But at the end of the day, I'm not super worried about it, because we're sitting at between like, if we can have blocks of 0 to 20 to 40 to 60 to 80 to 100% usage, then somebody sitting at 20% usage is no different to me than somebody sitting at 0% usage of our server capacity. Does that make sense? Now, if they did it often, we would obviously clean them out and kick them out or whatever. But there's,
Right.
Yeah. Hold on, I gotta get my chat back up. I don't want to be missing chat over on YouTube or anything, so don't want to be rude to people. Smitty said it uses, yeah, Kubernetes, Rancher. Yeah. I think that was interesting. Does Werewolf use Jinja like that for Ansible? Oh, I was in Ansible. Yeah. Sorry, that was an Ansible view for anybody that was wondering. This right here is Ansible inside of. Let's just cat it real quick. This is the only reason that I was using Ansible with XCPNG. There's 2 modules that are still active that I know of that still work. Zen Server Guest and Zen Server Power. And I don't use the Power one because I can do everything with Guest. And then what this does is then I connect to the node that I want to, which the hostname and the username are part of my vault. And then, the username and password are part of the vault, and then the hostname I give at the command line when I run it. So do I have... maybe I don't have an example of me running it here. But there's the vault, right? Can't read the vault. You need the password for vault. Or do I just have it hidden in here? It's very possible that I just hid the file in here. No, I didn't. Okay, so then you would need to know my vault password as you ran it if you were going to run it at the command line. So, Agalord, you said you got Minikube running on your laptop. Work a bit with our 8K cluster at work. Need to build an actual node separated cluster here at home to play more. Yeah, Agalord. Yeah, they tend to call those like a Cube ADM build. When you do it for real, it's a Cube ADM build. And what you do is typically you build like your control plane nodes, which used to be called masters, but they call them control plane nodes. And then from there, you'll generate the connect string for all the other ones, and they'll just connect in. Super easy. We actually do run a cluster in the home lab. So there's a cluster that shares out all of this. What is this? That's Conboard. I don't need that up anymore. Like our home ProLUG, this is all run from the home lab here, and it's on Kubernetes, and then it's fronted with CloudFront into the world. So if anybody goes to prolug.org, that's how you're getting there. And then most of these things should be up. I do need to rebuild the new one. We could do that on normal nights like this too. I don't know if Treasure's around. I gotta check Treasure's messages if he told me that the new one was good. Let me see if it's good. He put all the new graduates in the CSVDB file. So let's see. The people who finished the ProLUG Enterprise Administration course. Yeah, those guys are all in there, so that's good. I wonder if he did a new deploy. So have you guys, some of you guys have probably not seen the deploy process. Let's go look at that. So there's our prod K8s there. And when we go to get into our prod K8s, we go like this. We go SSH Scott. Is that right? No, we go in his root. Right? And then once we get over there, box been up for a while, we sudo to Scott. We become the Scott user. And then I've got a whole long history of how we deploy our environment. So if over here I do ls, we've got the website. And in the website here, what we tend to do is every time I do any of this, I move PLS as it is in the version that it is into the old archive. So I move it off into the archive here, right? Boom. So now I don't have PLS in here anymore. This is going to be the name of the cloned professional Linux users group Git, and this is where Treasure puts this. I'm pretty sure we have a new version of this up. So let's go grab that. So we're going to clone this down. And then now in PLS, I've got all of the new Docker files. One of the things I'm going to do, let's go look at this. Well, obviously they're going to be today's date. But I can so today's date. And we could just compare them, and no, it doesn't look like he's pushed anything up because those are the same exact size files, and there's no way they would be the same. See how they're the exact same size? So I think he's got that ready, but he hasn't staged it yet. So I will wait. I'll talk to Treasure and then I'll wait. But yeah, that's yeah. So then, if we were going to redeploy this, right here, this PLS now has the new version of it. So we would cd into PLS, and if we do a history again real quick, we would then create, right here, we would do a podman build, right? We'd cd in there, we'd podman build -t PLS, and then we would do the tag for it for PLS, and we would push it to our local host on 5000. Now that's a image container that we run inside of Kubernetes locally, right? There's that's just a Docker image, but it's a local repository, local where we build the container to, and then we go and we redeploy it with version 2 of the website. Now we could keep incrementing the versions, but as I said, it does. As I've said before, it doesn't really matter. If you wanted to see that, we go up one. And the website, right here, this deploys it, 2 replicas from that local machine. Privilege escalation false. And we had it running security context as a different user, but we removed that because it didn't really matter. But then this is how the website runs. The website runs on port 9090. Then it's shared out from my home. The reason we had to do that, you might say, well, why don't you just share it out on port 80 and let people connect directly to prolug.asus.com on the back end and just front this on the DNS? Well, I would love to do that, guys, but Cox Internet doesn't let you do that. You can't use port 80. Guess I'd have to buy a business line or something. I guess I could pay like the 20 extra bucks and get a business line. But I don't, just out of principle, I don't like doing that. So I just let CloudFront from AWS front this, and then it just pulls it and caches it and does all that stuff. Which actually we had caching problems, but I think people have fixed it by just touching it every day. So, okay. So, yeah, we got, oh, by the way, that's the end of our change window. So we couldn't do any more changes if we wanted to, but we were done half an hour ago as far as the actual changes. Let's go look real quick. Did I close it? Oh, I moved it over here. Hold on. Let's pull up our Kanban board and say, okay, we've gotten these things done in the first 2 maintenances so far. We've got a backlog of work, but this work I can do whenever I want. So I can do this during the week. We can do this on stream and stuff. However, we'll validate it after rebooting servers on Sunday nights. That's how we'll validate our checks and all those kind of things. So this one's kind of short and sweet. I don't want to spend too much time, but I do want you guys to kind of get a feel for how we could operate a change window. The guys that are on Discord with me, if we were doing this as a team and I had my junior engineers here and they were logged into my system doing work with me, they might be in the same jump server as me. And then I would have them going and like, hey, this one server didn't come back up. Can you go fix it? Do you have your vCenter access? Do you have your, in this case, it would be XCPNG. Can you boot a server up and then watch it boot and make sure you can get access to it and fix whatever's wrong with it? And then they would report back to me, right? And these are the things that we would do. It's kind of like a multi-threading with people to make sure that our stuff gets done. And maybe they have their own changes planned in the window. Again, probably against different servers because you're not changing the same servers in the same window. But this is the way sometimes this works when you, and this is all, man, it's going to be different change practices in different organizations, different ways of doing stuff. A lot of times you have change windows for dev environments during the week, maybe on like a Thursday afternoon, you're allowed to work in the dev environment and then the devs can't get mad or you still work with them on the timing, but it's not like we're going to be working off hours for dev environments. However, we can't kick 200 devs off of servers. That's a big waste of money for a company. So, all right. Anyways, I wanted you guys to see this stuff. We got monitoring in place. The monitoring's good. This is a good heads-up display. It doesn't tell us what's missing. If a server just goes quiet, I have to be like, okay, all the hammers are there, all the rockets are there, that's not great, especially if we had 1,000 nodes. So we do want to probably put something in here that shows down nodes, right? If any nodes are down, we just want them, again, quick little heads up display. It only populates if there's something that's not responding. Everything else looks green down here, right? And this would be probably right about there. This would be a pretty good little heads up display for a team to see, especially people with normal color vision, because you'd be able to see if any of these were red, right? And we've spun this up before. We know that this will spin up and we'll see that Rocky 5 is using a lot of CPU or whatever, which, what do we care? They're not that big of boxes. If we had the lab boxes and all I did was say, don't hurt the boxes, what would the value of that be to you guys? You guys need to be able to beat these things up, right? Like if you had a demolition derby, but the goal was not to hit any cars, that would be stupid, right? Like we have to test this thing. Like from the very first time anybody built anything, the next thing this buddy said was, hey, can I get in it and put the gas down as hard as I can? That's kind of what's going on with this. KB Fast, yeah, XCPNG is definitely old, man. It's not really being supported much. Then it would just be a derby. Yeah, if it's not demolition derby, it's just a derby. That's true, yeah. I never even thought about that, yeah. Yeah, XCPNG is pretty old, man. Yeah, they're not even really supporting it. Like, Zen is owned by Oracle now, right? And XCPNG was a fork when that got bought, and that was, I don't know, 6+ years ago now. It's been a while, right? So, yeah, Colchis, I'm gonna definitely get some of you guys access, and then we'll work to get, because you might say, well, how would we get access to XCPNG? Like, right? Like, how would we get this console access like this? Well, I'm gonna see if, actually, let's go check right now. Let's go see if XCPNG, right? Let's go see if XCPNG Center has been, there's a newer one released, but what's it been released for, right? Is it only still, last I checked, it was only Windows, right? Like you had to be running Zen Windows. But let's see, maybe we can forward it out from other tools. And if I can use it from a Linux desktop, I can give you guys. We have Guacamole. You guys can connect in on Guacamole, and I can give you a desktop, right? So I could give admins desktops, and with a desktop, you could pull this up, and you could also pull up the Grafana. So that would be useful too, for people that want to say, hey, I do operational things, right, and be able to show that. Hold on, let's go see. That's it released, but let's see. Yeah, it's only an MSI installer. That's MSI's only Windows, right? Desktop type stuff. I know of no. Let's go look. Source. Nah.
Does XCPNG have a command line interface?
No, but the individual nodes do. So XCPNG, the individual nodes that are actually part of it, the XCPNG like command center doesn't have one, but the individual nodes can be command line accessed. Yes. Yep. So you could go to a node, power cycle a box that you couldn't ping, and then see if the ping came back. I don't know if there's a console though, like, because really at the end of the day, you need to be able to watch a box boot, right? Like to really admin it, you got to be able to watch it boot. Whether that's going and walking in a data center and plugging stuff in, or pulling up a tool and being able to do it that way. I'm interested now, but yeah, probably can't. I could see if there's a free version. Nah, that wouldn't work too well. I was gonna say, XCPNG works with Windows. Guacamole can share access into like a Windows server. So if I had a Windows server in the environment, which we could stand up, I haven't done Windows Server admin work in like a long time, right? Like a long time. And some of you guys know I was the team lead for platform engineer, so I did both sides, but I stayed away from the Windows unless those guys really had like an engineering problem that they needed. Otherwise, I let them do all their Windows shit. But I would help them if there was something like PowerShell. I can do PowerShell. PowerShell is so similar to like JavaScript and Perl that it's not even funny. I think it's just so close that it's not that complex for people. Okay, but here's what we're gonna do, guys. We'll drop off of here. This is a pretty good little spot to stop. We were successful in our first couple change windows. We didn't have anything that crashed the server. We'll keep adding these things and kind of moving these through, and then as you guys come up with stuff that you have that we should work on, let me know. Give credit. Yeah, the backup stuff. I don't know if you were here, Colcus, but yeah, we put your backup solution in there. So now we're going to test it this week. Contab-L, right? And then if we
backup scripts.
Yeah. So now lab shares is now this backup script, but we did run it to make sure it ran.
Oh, cool.
Right? But we're going to check it. We'll play with it, and we'll make sure that it does the things that we expect it to do going forward. It should run at in our environment. It will run. Oh, it's going to run in 23, so 15 hours. So we got time. It'll run sometime tomorrow, but that's fine, right? I don't care. I don't care where it runs, but we'll be able to see the validation of it running. Also, we'll be able to. We should see here. We should also see it run in cron as well. So it says that we replaced it and edited it, and then we'll actually see that command running, just like we were seeing. Let's see, were we seeing the other ones run? Oh, we might not see it here. We would see if there were errors here though, so that's good. But we'll see it run. We'll see it run over there in the log. That's fine. So different cron tabs give different stuff. And I guess we're also not necessarily reporting out. So, okay, all right. So we'll call it there, guys. I'm gonna drop the stream. I'll stay in the Discord for a few minutes, but I'll drop the stream here. I appreciate you guys coming, and I will see some of you guys later on.